about AI and counselor education research, ethics, and equity, and experiential learning, how you learn about this. I am a core faculty member here at UC, and I am both a student and an author about artificial intelligence. And I have about 25 years, actually 30 now, with counseling supervision and clinical experience. I'm in leadership. I've done a lot of international work. Recently, one of the areas that I have really invested in is artificial intelligence. With my fiance, we write and present a lot on this, but we also now are part of an AI and counselor education consortium that represents about 6 universities where we have come together and are working together to present consistent ethical frameworks for how to use AI in counselor education. And this is a very new process. Like, we literally just came together in the last month. It's Carl Shapiris, Donna Shapiris, myself, and a few others that have come together and formed a group to talk about this. My personal focus in AI really focuses on equity and social justice from a couple of different realms. Environmental justice, I believe that we do need to understand that AI has a significant impact on our environmental resources, and so therefore we need to use it wisely. I'm not going to treat AI like Google Scholar. I'm going to be very intentional about my prompts. I'm going to be very intentional about how I engineer my prompts so that when I do a search, it's a one and done, if at all possible, because on average, every major search that you do in AI, depending on the AI you're using, can use up to a gallon of water and can destroy parts of the forest. So I want you to be very intentional about how you use AI. So part of what I want you to leave this webinar with is the knowledge of what AI is to use for what parts of the process, so that you're not just kind of shooting in the dark and using up our wonderful limited world resources. The other thing is AI is only replicating what we've given it. It's a predictive model. I love it in part because one of my favorite statistical procedures is multiple regression, and that is really the heart and soul of all artificial intelligence, is a predictive mathematical model. It has learned through machine learning how to use the data that exists in order to predict what information you want. All right. And I think that we can sometimes humanize AI, but AI is not human. It's not even close yet. It is really about predicting using mathematical algorithms. And so I think it's really important that as you think about how you're engaging with AI, that you keep that in mind. Okay, because that will sometimes help you understand where and how to use it. So, learning objectives. How do you critically evaluate AI tools in the research process? How do you understand the benefits and the risk? How do you apply an ethical model that Dr. Jones and I are in the process of publishing, called the Equity AI Ethical Decision-Making Framework? And then let's engage in some experiential learning so we can play with AI and see what it's doing and what it means. AI is transforming higher ed in a way that I haven't experienced. I've been in higher ed since 1997 as a professor, and this has been one of the most powerful transformational experiences I've ever had as a professor. It has changed the way that I think. It has changed the way that I research. It's changed the way I write. It has also changed how I'm interacting with students and with their content, right? So that's important to think about. But there are ethical and multicultural challenges with AI. We have to understand, like I said, it is replicating what we've already put in it. And guess what? A lot of our research that's in there is biased. It is not well done, and it is something that it really requires that we have a critical lens in evaluating what we're getting for AI. We can't take it at face value, and we're going to do an exercise hopefully a little bit later that's going to help you see that and help you understand that a little bit more. So what I'm really striving for is a justice center process that we do this, that you bring your critical lenses, that you don't take the human out of the process, and that you use it as a tool and a resource, not as a crutch, right? It's not here to do the work for you. It's here to help you with the work that you're trying to do. A little brief history of AI. I thought this was interesting. So the first mention of AI is actually credited all the way back to 1927 to a movie. I'd never seen this movie. It's called Metropolis, and it is actually had an AI robot in it. And so that was where this idea was first evolving from. In 1950, we got the three laws of robotics from a short set of short stories. We also got the Turing test, which is where you basically put AI and a human blindly to an observer. They both try to solve a problem, and the observer has to guess which one is AI and which one isn't. And when it fails, AI has achieved learning at a human level. We also have Dartmouth Conference. This is one of the very first summits where AI knowledge came together. Now, interesting with the race to space, it actually kind of put AI on hold in a lot of ways. And we have what's called the AI winter. The AI winter goes from the late 50s to the early 80s when we had yet another explosion of AI. A lot of people think AI just happened. AI has been in the makings for a long, 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 long time. All right, so machine learning really started to emerge in the 1980s. The internet we saw this explosion of information and exchange and collaboration. AI beat a chess master in 1997. That was a really big deal because that was a change in how AI was functioning, right? Instead of AI being programmed based on rules, AI was actually recalculating the data for a prediction equation. And I'm very simplifying that, but that's the best way to explain it. And it actually was able to beat the human master in chess based on this new way of machine learning. We then got autonomous vehicles in 2005 that actually won a major race and beat the human-driven cars, moving into deep learning, big data, machine learning, AI winning Jeopardy. Come on now, Jeopardy, it won Jeopardy. That's pretty cool. And then 2022 plus, we get generative AI, which it has been just a roller coaster ride since then. Okay, so that's a little history of AI. There's Moloch has a metaphor for AI. It's getting a little out of date, but I think it's still relevant to think of AI as this high-end intern, right? It's got a lot of good information. It has a lot of desire and passion to please you, but it still doesn't know enough to be on its own. Okay, you still need to screen it. You still need to supervise it. You still need to utilize the data and the work that it does for you with some level of care. All right, but it is still a very useful assistant. So don't throw out, and let me tell you, I like this part about how as an intern, it will lie to you about things sometimes just to please you. Okay, so just recognize that. And again, we're going to do something to kind of test that and see what that looks like. All right, so AI and academic research today. How are you going to use AI in your research that you're doing or have done or am doing? Literature review. We have many, many different tools now, and often they will actually work together. I'm going to show you a really cool system that is environmentally low on impact that utilizes a lot of these resources in a more environmentally justice-oriented way. But elicit, cite, SciSpace. I'm going to show you SciSpace. Probably could show you elicit too, but that went off the little chart there. Sorry about that typo. Can assist with efficient lit reviews. And these are getting outstanding. Like when I first started playing with elicit, there was a lot of hallucinations, right? There was a lot of issues with it. Now it is really hard for me to find a hallucination with SciSpace, which is my preferred one that I use for lit reviews and writing chapters and things like that. And I'm going to show you some of the cool tools that we can use with that. Drafting and summarizing. With the AI language models like ChatGPT now, they've become a long way. I don't know how many of you know this, but you can actually use AI systems within ChatGPT. So like Canvas now has a ChatGPT within ChatGPT. So if I want to create, say, a picture, I can go into ChatGPT. Underneath, I can choose Canvas. I can actually tell it what item I want. It'll create it. I can then click on the Canvas icon. It'll take me into Canva, and I can edit that picture. I can change that picture in some way in Canva, which is just mind blowing to me that these things are now talking and working with each other. I don't know how many of you know, but on your iPhone now, you can replace, well, you don't replace Siri. You can actually give Siri ChatGPT, and Siri and ChatGPT will work together to make a better assistant for you. So all done in your settings. So these things can work well together. Um, so ChatGPT and Claude, I still use ChatGPT a lot. I have some ChatGPT agents that I've created that help me with some items that I have to do on a regular basis. Claude is another favorite. Dr. Jones really likes Claude a lot. That's his favorite. Claude is a little bit more academic than ChatGPT. I kind of have to force ChatGPT to be academic. Claude is kind of naturally academic. So those are how I know Dr. Simmons really likes Claude a lot. You can also use AI for data analysis and coding. And I'm going to show you some of the research that I've recently done and how I've used some of the AI to do that work. And then we always have to recognize a risk, right? There are always going to be risks. There's potential for bias, there's privacy issues, there's plagiarism issues, there's authorship issues that we need to address when we're talking about AI. I think one of the biggest things that we can do with the risk is transparency. If I use AI for a lit review, if I use AI for my data collection or my data analysis, I have to be transparent about it. I just have to talk about it, right? I don't just pretend like it didn't happen. Those of you that have been in classes with me, you've probably noticed there's a little byline at the bottom of some of the documents that I've done, right? Created with the assistance of Google Notebook LM, created with the assistance of ChatGPT. I try to put that byline in, and like at the beginning of this presentation, I gave credit to Beautiful AI, which helped create this presentation for me. So we always need to attribute the tools that we use. So we have some pressures in higher ed, which I think are contributing to some of the issues that people are having with AI. A little historical story though here, because I have been in the field for a really long time. I remember the days of microfiche where I had to take in my dimes and buy each page of the microfiche for 10 cents. I also remember sitting in the floor with the journals surrounding me, searching through the journals and doing what we call reverse or mining through the journal articles. So I've been in the field for a while. I remember when Google came out. That's how old I am. Okay, I do remember Google's emergence, and people were severely opposed to Google. They were like, that's cheating. You're not getting real sources. I bet that at least most of you on this call use Google on a regular basis or some form of a search engine, and you don't even think about it, right? Like it's not even something that you even think, oh, what are people going to think about the fact that I just did a Google search? That's where we're headed, okay? AI is going to be and is already such an integral part of our world that we have to learn how to critically evaluate it and not just be afraid of it. Okay, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about Dr. Park and some of the other leaders in this program is they have embraced it. They have said, let's teach students, let's teach faculty about this. Let's not run away from this, right? Let's not put our heads in the sand and pretend like this isn't happening. And I think that's something that's a real value of this institution and something that we need to really celebrate, because I've been with other institutions and seen other institutions who've really just buried their head in it and don't want to talk about it. I've seen some journals that don't want to deal with it. And I've seen other journals that are like, absolutely no AI created materials. And I think that's just very short-sighted. I think that's very different. Dr. Bonfini and I actually just had a meeting with APA about some things, and we brought up the need for some of, how AI can help and support this process. And they were very open to it. So it was nice to hear the American Psychological Association is embracing this as well and figuring out how to do this well. But the publisher parish is still alive and well in academics. And I think as people feel pressure to move from, being a dissertation student or a doctoral student to a dissertation candidate, from dissertation candidate to assistant, from assistant to associate, associate to full professor, there's this pressure to publish, 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 present, present, present. And it's overwhelming at times, right? I can tell you, I probably have 8 projects on the table, some of which Dr. Bonfini, Dr. Haddad, and I have been trying to write an article for months now. So yes, we have a lot of projects that are out there, and it would be really easy to try to cut corners and just let AI do some of it. And I do think there are ways that AI can help us do it, but we should never be dependent on AI doing it for us because we need to be present in that process. But we will probably become more productive if we use AI well and we use it with a critical lens. Okay. So as long as we can have the critical lens and use it as a tool, I think it can increase your productivity. And it could also potentially, for those of you in dissertation, especially around the lit review, could really compress the time that you're doing your lit review. And you're going to see some pretty amazing tools tonight. We also have the Matthew effect, which is really looking at inequity in citations and visibility. I would say that in a lot of ways, AI has actually enhanced my ability to go beyond. Let's go back. I hit the wrong button. To go back and look at more sources than I normally would with a manual search. Right? Because I know that through SciSpace especially, I'm getting access to a lot of international journals that I wouldn't have considered. I wouldn't have known how to get to otherwise, right? A lot of times you're limited by what databases, what journals, the library that you have access to. These new systems have opened us up to this whole massive world that we didn't even know existed. For me doing research on AI, counseling is not cutting edge with AI yet. And so I'm having to rely on other fields. I'm having to rely on other professions to get to AI. So it's important to be aware of that, but also be cognizant of the fact that there are some pretty significant biases that exist in the research. We also have to advocate for IRB. I think some IRBs are not, and Dr. Park probably speak better at this than I could, but with IRBs, we have to be very transparent about how we're using AI because they're going to be necessarily cautious about that. And they're going to really want us to do our due diligence. I don't know, Dr. Park, if you want to jump because you're IRB, you've been on IRB, if IRB and UC has said anything specifically about AI.
Yeah, actually, it hasn't come up specifically in the committees yet. I think this is something as the university moves in that direction, that it is still, the university is very supportive of the use of AI, and we acknowledge that this is all still very new and we're working to figure out what that looks like for us. I think what's coming up for the most part is how students may be using it inappropriately in their dissertation research and not as much as a part of their research or a focus of their research just yet. So it's coming and we're paying attention, but more to come.
Yes, exactly. And I think the key of using AI ethically is really making sure that it is a tool and it is not doing it for you, right? That's the main key is that you need to be the actual author of what you're writing. And some of what we're going to talk about tonight is going to help with that. Just like with any other element of your study, though, if you do use any form of AI, you need to include that in your informed consent. People need to know if AI is going to be analyzing their data. People need to know if AI is going to be involved in any aspect of the collection of their data. They need to have full ability to grant their consent in that process. So that's something that I don't think we've done a good job yet of really explaining. So I'm really want to hit on that tonight is that when you use any form of AI, just like if you were using an assessment tool or anything, you need to evaluate it, make sure that it is safe, it's respecting privacy, and that you are doing what you need, your due diligence to make sure you're protecting individuals' data. And there are ways to do that, but you just need to understand each tool as you're using the tool. And we've talked a little bit about UC's response. So I did a massive literature review in the spring, and I looked at the ACA code, the APA codes. I looked at ACA's ethical principles in AI. I looked at NBCC's ethical AI principles. I looked at UNESCO's principles for ethical AI use. There's a whole bunch of materials that I used. It was a very intensive lit review that I did. And out of that lit review, there were 8 areas that we need to address when we're dealing with AI and research: transparency, disclosure, and explainability. I'm going to show you an example of that when we look at Julius, but being very clear about where, how, and when you're using AI. Professional responsibility, that I can't make these decisions really on my own. I need to involve peer review. I need to have consultation and collaboration about this so that I'm not missing a potential risk or bias that might be at play here. Data privacy and confidentiality. I need to know how to turn off the data so it's not informing the algorithms when I'm doing research. I need to know, can I close off this AI so that my data is not being fed back into the models? And there's ways to do that. And there's AI tools you can use that aren't being used to feed the models. What's the societal benefit? What's the equity in what I'm doing, right? Is there any non-malfeasance? Am I not harming other people? These are all important. More and more, I'm seeing AI tools that are refusing to do certain things. So I was working with a doc student not too long ago on a human sexuality presentation, and I asked AI for some information, and it said it couldn't give it to me because it thought it was pornography. So there are some ethics being built into AI. I also asked it for an example for one of my classes about suicide, and the ethical parameters shut it down and said that it couldn't talk about suicide, right? So I had to restructure the question and make sure it understood the context that I was coming at from, that it was for an instructional purpose, and then it was allowing me to do it. Accountability, governance, and human oversight. I can't just take what ChatGPT gives me and just throw it out there, right? I have to do the due diligence, making sure it's accurate, it's valid, it's really part of the process. Screening it for bias and equity. And this is something that I think it really does require multiple eyes on it, so that I may not know my own privilege in certain areas, right? And I may not even see something as a bias. So this is where that peer review is going to be really, really important, that you're really examining that, because we can perpetuate stigmas, we can perpetuate biases in the work if we aren't very, very careful. Intellectual property and authorship. It's not appropriate just to upload Dr. Bonfini's article that she worked really hard on and enter it into the data model, right? Dr. Haddad just did a lot of really hard work on her dissertation. She doesn't want you just uploading that and sharing it with the world, right? We have to control the privacy and authorship of this. And there are certain tools that I love to use. I love Google LM. I think it's amazing, Google Notebook LM. It's one of my favorites. But if something is behind a paywall, I shouldn't be sharing it in Google Notebook, because there's no way for me to turn it off from it feeding it back into Google. Okay. So I have to understand how the systems work so that I can use them ethically and appropriately, so I don't violate privacy, I don't violate authorship. And then competency, taking webinars like this, coming to Dr. Jones and I have a pre-conference at ACES. We're going to do 4 hours of this. If you want to come and spend time with us, you can do that. And we will be helping you figure out how to use this even at a deeper level, and actually maybe even doing some research tools using them during that process. So I created the Equity AI framework. So the Equity AI framework is not a 6-step. I don't know why I said 6 steps, but it's more than 6 steps. So it's a 7-step process. And with the 7-step process, you really can start almost anywhere, but I really like to start with established purpose and professional identity. When I'm using AI, I need to know, what is the purpose of the AI that what am I trying to achieve with the AI, right? What is my professional identity that I'm approaching the AI from? Why is that important, you ask? Well, it's important because whenever I'm using AI, I have to give it the context from which I'm doing it, right? Am I coming to it as a researcher? Am I asking for help as an educator? Am I asking for help as a mother who can't figure out their children? What is it that I'm trying to understand here, right? So I need to give that context. So I need to understand that so that I know what lenses I'm using. Then I can quantify transparency and disclosure. I'm going to disclose what systems I used, how I used them, what version of the system I used, in order so that somebody could replicate the work that I've done. It's really important. I'm also going to disclose that use in my informed consent if I'm doing research so that my participants can make informed decisions about whether they want to participate in that research. I'm going to undergo human oversight and critical evaluation, which means I'm going to evaluate the AI. I'm going to listen to what other people are saying. I'm going to listen to podcasts. I'm going to watch some videos about it. I'm going to read the documentation on that website. I'm going to figure out what can this do? How does it do it? What information do I need to understand how it works? I'm not going to just jump in and start using it. I'm going to understand how it works so that I know whether or not there could potentially be breaches in the information that I'm sharing and what information I should be sharing. I'm going to investigate the bias and promote equity. So this is one of my favorite things to do. When Claude or ChatGPT or even Julius give me a biased response, I love to correct the model. So I make a point of saying that was a really biased response, and here's why. Or I would like for you to consider this from a feminist perspective. What would you say then? Right? And I may have a conversation with the AI about the bias that I see, the inequity that I see. I might challenge it. Because here's the thing, how we write our prompts will also encapsulate our internalized or unknown biases. So how you ask your research questions, for example, how you explore your research topic may introduce bias. And guess what? These AI systems are really good at figuring out what you want. So they're going to perpetuate what you have insinuated you want. It's confirmatory bias, basically, right? They're going to confirm whatever it is that you want. So if you're using AI to explore a research topic, you've really got to be careful about that. You've really got to pay attention to the bias. If you're using it for a lit review, you've got to be really careful about the language you're using, to the point where I've actually asked AI what potential biases might be in what I'm saying. Right? Ask it to help you with it. Have a conversation with it. Or if you're afraid a specific bias is going to be present, I've also said, help me create a prompt that will ensure that this bias is not captured in the results. Like, just be transparent about the process. Take responsibility for the data and privacy and confidentiality. Like I said, you got to do your due diligence with that. My ChatGPT does not feed back into the model, right? I have it turned off. I make sure it stays off because I don't want what I'm putting in ChatGPT to go back in there. I recognize with Google Notebook LM, I don't have the ability to do that. So I can only use open source resources in my Google Notebook LM or resources I personally own because they're going to go back into the model, right? I don't have a way to turn that off. Yield to authorship and intellectual integrity. We want to respect each other's integrity and the work that we've put into it, right? So we need to respect that. And advance competency and invest in education. Webinars like this. Okay, so this is the framework. So let's talk about Alex. Alex is developing a research proposal and he's examining social supports and mental health outcomes for first-generation college students. He plans to use an AI tool to assist with the initial literature search and synthesis. So either in the chat or out loud, I love it when you talk to me. What are some things that we need to think about? What do we need to tell Alex to be thinking about?
In this case, coming from a very specific standpoint and this topic, I think bias is going to be huge in this topic.
Yeah. Okay. So watching out for bias. Good. Thanks, Norman. What else?
I guess I was thinking if he's using AI to find sources, like the sources are only within the AI, like within the framework. So he like going outside of that because it might only pull from what's already in whatever, ChatGPT or whatever he's using.
Right. What it knows. I mean, like when ChatGPT first came out, right? It only had information up to 2021. It didn't have current research. It's better now, but What
And,
else?
and I actually just did a test on that earlier. ChatGPT has a scholar version or scholarlet AI, absolutely useless because I know the subject and I know the article, so I just tested it, putting in terminal lucidity, giving the articles published in 2025. It returned 2, and it could not even return what I already had in my list. So I have way more than that. So very useless. On the other hand, Perplexity, especially in research mode, is a very good tool. However, none of these tools necessarily have a 100% list of literature. So do not trust any one tool by itself to generate a complete literature list. I personally use also Google Scholar and OpenAlex and several other databases
Right.
and several AI tools to round out the literature search. And then I go from the articles. Also, I'll branch out into other literature. AI will not necessarily give you that. And
Right.
be careful which AI systems still produce fake
Yeah,
articles, which
hallucinate.
is extremely common. Yeah.
Yeah, they hallucinate. I'm going to talk about that and show you some tools with that. Okay.
For me, I
Oh.
found that one of the things I would recommend to Alex to test the results is tell it peer-reviewed articles only. Because I've done some stuff for my personal writing, for example, and said, hey, I want this. And I actually had to tell it, please exclude all Wikipedia articles, anything related to Wikipedia, anything that is absolutely not peer reviewed. And then to go along with my peer here, I had to go back and look at some stuff in Google Scholar just to make sure.
Yeah, I would say you need to check every single source, right? That's
Yeah.
the key, is you can't trust any source that comes from it. Even when I trust certain AIs because of experience, I'm still checking every single thing. Brandy, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say that question, maybe AI will assume that there could be poor mental health outcomes for first generation college students or lack of social support, just by the way it's written.
Right.
So, and being able to check for that, because it's not necessarily the assumption.
Right, exactly. Now, one of the other things that I learned very early on as a researcher is that practitioners and researchers don't use the same language often, right? So I'm also limiting, because of the way AI works, to just this phrase, first generation college students. So one of the things I might want to first search is, what are all the terms that have been used for these variables so that I can expand what AI is looking for, right? I don't want to just give it the only term that I know, because part of doing a lit review is also knowing what the terminology is, right? So you've got to expand that out as well. So I want to show you what
I
happens.
would like to add
Oh, go
just
ahead.
one thing more because I think it's really important. And I just ran over this across this about 2 days ago. When I searched for articles about terminal lucidity, I actually ran across an article published in some supposedly peer-reviewed journal in India. 5 authors, look good, but I know the subject. So first of all, the title seemed a little bit suspicious to me. Like, I've heard this kind of stuff before. The article was very thin, only 15 citations. And there were 1 or 2 errors in there that definitely smelled like this article was AI generated. So sometimes when we run across a journal that we have doubts about and the article looks like it might have been written with AI, it might have been actually generated by someone with AI due to the pressure to publish or just to feed their ego. And I ran across this article that was weird, awkward.
Right. And that's where you have to go into that critical review, right? You've got to review. I mean, I've gone as far as to actually research the journal, right? Because I'm not going to use a journal necessarily that you might pay to get published, for example. I'm going to want to make sure that it's got some rigor and that it actually, is somebody or a journal that is, got value. So here's the application of the equity AI system. So first, Alex would need to clarify that he wants the AI to help with the preliminary literature discovery and not do the actual critical analysis or the original synthesis of literature. It's not that AI can't help with synthesis. We're going to talk about that. But that initially, we're just doing the preliminary. So what's the purpose of using the AI? Wants to disclose which AI model was used, how the prompts were used. They're even recommending now that you share your prompt if you use a prompt to share it so that it can be replicated for somebody who might want to try to redo what you've done, the dates of use and how he integrated. I would add to that the actual version of the AI that was used. To carefully review the AI generated data for scholarly accuracy, that it actually exists, validating the references and cross-checking the themes. For the I, we're going to initially, the AI might initially overemphasize deficit perspectives, right, which somebody brought up. And we're going to want to make sure we're supplementing that with culturally relevant and a more holistic view of this population. For T, that we're going to ensure no raw data or confidential information is shared with the AI system. For Y, we're going to represent all the human writings as human generated, and the AI is just going to be a preliminary tool to help with the process, but everything else is going to be human generated, human critiqued, human synthesized. And for the AI, going to continue to talk about this process with their faculty supervisor, engage in professional development, and commit to ongoing education. So you can see how the model was applied to this particular situation. So for those of you, especially who are supervising doctoral students, I think this framework is a really useful tool to begin to introduce to your doctoral students so that they can begin to apply it. And for those of you that are going to be future supervisors of research, again, a good model to help students really be intentional about the process of using AI and thinking it through. Okay. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about an AI generated summary, and we're going to talk about this as a group. So I've just got to stop sharing for just a second so I can get out of this and bring up the example. If I can find it. Where did my example go? Here we go. Okay, so trying to figure out how to. Okay, let me see. If there's a way for me to share this. It's not giving me a way to share this easily. Okay, so we're just going to share it on the screen. So give me 1 second. Apologize for those of you like me who might be over 40. I'm over 50, who might not be able to read this very well. But let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to get the first top part of this and just give you a second to kind of read over it. And what I want you to think about is this is AI generated summary. Is there anything that stands out to you or anything you're curious about as you're reading it? Good point, Brian.
Can I say Brian has an advantage? Brian, what is your prior background before you came into counseling?
Which life, Dr. Von Feeney?
Your computer science life? That life?
Yeah, I've had every position in IT that you can have, including research and development.
He's a ringer. I gotta
Got 12 items in the Library of Congress and a bunch of other stuff. So
yeah, just a little bit of experience, just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. So most of the stuff from my former life, I agree with. I trust AI about as much as I trust the $9 bill. But I do agree, I'm being honest, but I do agree that like Google and other tools, it's a tool.
It's a
And as
tool.
long as you use it responsibly, it's really not a bad tool. I
Mhm.
especially appreciate the fact that you brought out there's a plethora of information that's coming out of other countries that we don't here in the States even consider. And
Yep,
it's really good, solid research.
it
But
is.
because, like Google, for example, is driven by advertising and sales, the algorithm is wired to filter out and suppress those people's information who
Right.
aren't putting money in. So yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get this over here so I can do something with you guys with what we were just talking about. Hold on. My thing is hiding. Okay. So I'm going to try to split the screen here so that we can look at this together. Okay. So I'm going to tell you as a professor that one of the first things that I'm going to do when I see something that I don't recognize, let's say, like, let's pretend like I don't recognize the Journal of Educational Analytics. I'm going to be looking at your references, your resources, right? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go over here to Google and I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to come up that that thing does not exist. And you know what I'm going to do? This is my approach as a professor is I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to go and I'm just picking on Brandy because I know Brandy. I'm going to be like, Brandy, I'm sorry, I just can't find this article. Could you please send me a copy of this article? I saw it in your reference list and I'm really interested in looking at it. Inevitably, guess what? They can't find that article. That article doesn't exist. Okay. So they kind of stick out like sore thumbs a lot of times because they have very creative names. And I know most of the counseling journals, for example, but some of the other ones I have to look up. But I'm going to look it up. And if I can't find it, I'm going to ask you for it. And if you can't produce it, then we're going to have to talk about the next step. Okay. So this is really important that we be able to find the sources that you're listing in your study. Okay. And Ashley, I see you. I'm going to get you in just a second. All right. The other thing that stands out to me is there's no DEOIs. There's no DOIs on here, right? That is a big red flag to me, is there are no DOIs. When you look up this article, you should be able to find the DOI. You should be able to go to the DOI sorter and find the search or search for the DOI and get the DOI. If it doesn't have a DOI, it might be real, but it's probably not. Okay, so these are some things that I'm going to do as a faculty member. I'm going to search for some of the things. The other thing that especially ChatGPT is really bad at is it doesn't know the alphabet and your citations will be out of order. That is another big red flag to me that you're using AI and you're not actually reviewing the material is when N comes before A. Don't know why like it likes to do that. All right, Ashley, what were you going to say?
I actually, you touched on it because I know whenever I have tried to look at citations before, trying to get ChatGPT to give you a DOI where you could go look at the actual article is like pulling teeth.
Yeah, but I can copy this one, for example, and I can do control copy and I can come over here and I can actually put it here and boom, it's going to take me to that article, right? Now, the other thing that I've noticed is that I'm going to scan this article, right? And if I had access to it, I'm going to scan it and I'm going to look at it because sometimes I see claims and I'm like, well, that's kind of a strange claim that they would say in the paper. And I go to the article and the article says nothing about that claim. Right? And so I can also kind of spot when things don't seem aligned with what the field says. Speaking to your point, Norman, right? When you're just like, this article feels very fishy. Okay. Because we are not only trying to do our own due diligence with AI, but we're now having to fish through all the material that was falsely created by AI. All right. I got to tell you guys, there's some pretty amazing things that I have said that I never said. I have found quotes and citations from me that I know I never said. All right. And a few of them that were published in pretty reputable journals. I even called one of my co-authors, Dr. Harris, Rodney Harris, and said, hey, Rodney, did you know that we said this? And he was like, we never said that. I said, well, according to this article in this journal, we said this. And so you really are, unfortunately, having to do your own due diligence and sort through materials that have been created and sometimes falsely created. The biggest risk I see here, just as a researcher, is students who will cite something that was cited in another source. At the doctoral level, especially, even at the master's level, do your due diligence. Do not use secondary citations because you don't know if the first person or the person cited that first person correctly. Always find the primary source for yourself. Do not trust citations in sources, okay? Go find the real resource. That's why we have interlibrary loan. Use interlibrary loan. It is your friend. I use it regularly. They know me by name. Ashley.
So if you do come across an article that has quoted you something that you never said or, misquoted, is there a procedure to go about getting that redacted or
Yeah, you can
calling
reach
that
out to
out?
the editor or the primary author. In this case, I reached out to the editor and I asked to have the article, at least that part removed because I'm like, I never said that. Like, I know I never said that type of thing. And sometimes they will and sometimes they won't, but at least you've done your due diligence. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I don't know why this is white. Why is that white? I don't know why it went white. Okay. So AI tools across the research cycle. You can use it for topic development. You can use it for literature review, methodological alignment, data collection, and data analysis. So next we're going to, I need to stop sharing again because I want to share a quick little video because she goes over it way faster than I ever could. So let me stop sharing and let me share again and make sure I've shared my audio. And then we're going to listen to this really quick clip, and then we're going to go on a field trip and we're going to look at some cool AI tools, okay? That's the fun part. Hopefully it'll work.
Hi everyone, I'm Neha Agrawal. I'm the founder of WiseUp, and on this channel I've made multiple videos on how to conduct research and publish your first research paper. In this video, I'm going to share with you the top 10 AI tools that you should use for your research activities. All these tools, in no particular order or ranking, will help you with every aspect of research, starting from literature review, PDF reading, data analysis, to research paper writing, plagiarism correction, citation and reference management, and finally, journal submission, literally guiding you through each and every step of the research process. Not only that, the tools that I've selected offer...
Oops, sorry. I was trying to help and I didn't help. There we go.
Hi everyone, I'm Neha Agrawal. I'm the founder of WiseUp, and on this channel I've made finally journal submission, literally guiding you through each and every step of the research process. Not only that, the tools that I've selected offer maximum capabilities in their free versions. So if you want to know how to use these tools, what are their best features, and how to incorporate them in your research, then let's get started. The first step of your research is literature survey, and traditionally we've been taught to use Google Scholar for our literature search, which usually takes months. Now with the help of AI tools, you can choose a research topic within seconds, filter out relevant research papers, get answers to questions, perform comparative analysis of different works, get access to free papers immediately, and manage all your literature efficiently. So let's break this down for you. For choosing a research topic, tools like Jenny, PaperPal, and Logically offer their AI chat assistant. All you need to do is open their AI chat feature and ask the question, give me research topic ideas on XYZ topic, which in my case is super hydrophobic antibacterial fabrics. Under PaperPal, you will find this option under the brainstorm section. Immediately, these tools will give you a host of relevant topic ideas on which you can pursue your research. Because I belong to this research field, I can tell you very confidently that some of these topic ideas are absolutely novel and would have taken you at least a month on Google Scholar to identify them yourself. Ideally, the more specific you are, the better topic ideas you will get. Now, once you have a research topic, you need to find relevant research papers in the field. For this purpose, you can use AI tools like Semantic Scholar, Art Discovery, and Sourcely. Unlike Google Scholar, which shows you non-peer-reviewed papers, blogs, and online articles as well, all these tools filter out the low-quality content and show you only peer-reviewed papers and journal articles from reliable databases like PubMed, Archive, IEEE, etc. They also have filters which allow you to access the most recent papers, open access PDFs, and choosing papers based on year of publication, number of citations, journal, etc. Sourcely also provides you with the summaries of the papers that you search for. Now you can go a step further with our discovery, where if you have any question regarding your research, then you can ask our discovery that, and it will give you research backed answers to your doubts. So with this, you would have done your initial literature survey and have a handful of papers downloaded. Now you want to make sure that you've done a thorough literature search. For this, you can use another AI tool, ResearchRabbit. With ResearchRabbit, which is free forever for researchers, you can upload one or more papers from your area of study. And ResearchRabbit will create a graph for you, showing how all the papers are connected with each other through citations, both previous and future ones. This will help you find more relevant research from your area, stay up to date with recent publications, and ensure that your literature survey is complete. So this was all about searching for literature. But now, how do we understand each paper or concept? How do we compare between the different works? And finally, how do we manage all our literature efficiently? Well, let's get into it. To understand each paper, you can use the help of AI chat assistants offered by Jenny, PaperPal, Logically, or Unriddle. Simply upload the paper on the platform and ask questions. You can ask it to critically evaluate the paper for you, explain a concept, or even summarize the paper for you. This way, you can understand each paper individually. Now we want to compare all the papers that we have downloaded as part of our literature. For this purpose, we will use the help of Unriddle, which offers a unique feature that no other tool offers yet. Simply upload all the papers onto the platform as part of your literature, and then you can ask questions directly to the entire library that you have uploaded. For example, which study showcases maximum efficiency in terms of nanoparticle usage? Or which study has the simplest methodology? This feature can be super useful when you want to compare all the papers together and understand which paper is better than the rest. Plus, Unriddle highlights exactly where it's pulling the information from in each document, tracing back key insights and giving us the confidence that the information is not AI generated. Finally, to manage all your literature, I would recommend Logically. With Logically File Annotator, you can annotate all your files, highlight important lines or sections, make notes, and organize them in different folders. Later on, you can use the same tool for citations and references, making your job easy. In this way, with the help of all these AI tools, you can conduct your literature survey process in a matter of few weeks, which otherwise would have taken you months. Now, with your literature search done, you can conduct your research and collect data. To analyze these data sets, we usually depend on Excel and complex calculations. But now we have another AI tool to help us in this process, Julius AI. Julius AI is like your very own data analyst. It combines the power of Excel, Python, and ChatGPT to analyze your data and give you accurate results. All you need to do is upload your Excel sheet and ask questions to Julius about the output that you need. You can perform very simple calculations to complex analysis like statistical modeling and predictive forecasting. You can also solve equations and ask it to generate reports of your analysis. Honestly, the more you explore this tool, the more friendly it will become to you. Now, with all your results and analysis in place, it is time to put everything down in a research paper. Earlier, writing a research article could take you 3 to 4 weeks with multiple rounds of iterations, plagiarism checks, and hours going into citing and referencing. But with the help of AI tools, this part has literally become a cakewalk. AI tools like Jenny, PaperPal, and Yomo can help you in outlining and creating a basic structure of your paper. After that, they can help you in auto-generating content like abstracts, introductions, conclusions. Or if you want to write them yourself, they can help you in improving the grammar and language to give your paper a more academic style and tone, paraphrasing content so that you don't commit plagiarism, and auto-completing a few sentences you are really struggling with. You can also export the text in Word, LaTeX, or other formats for ease of publication. Now, each of these tools have their own strengths, so it's very difficult to recommend one over the other. Personally, what I love about Jenny is that I can upload all my literature onto the platform, categorize them in different folders, and then when writing the papers, I can refer to them on the go, cite them in text, and generate the references section parallelly. When it comes to Yomo, what I love about it is its ability to give feedback. While other tools will go ahead and improve the content for you, Yomo shows you where exactly are you going wrong, how the text you've written can be improved, and nudges you to do it yourself. Also, with its sister tool Sourcely, it can help you in citing and referring to all the relevant papers in your writing. The best part about Sourcely is that it goes through your entire paper and then selects the citation worthy parts to help you identify where to insert a citation. Personally, I find this to be an amazing feature unique to Sourcely as it can help you identify all the important works that needs to be cited and therefore avoid any accidental plagiarism. When it comes to citation and reference management, Logically also offers an end-to-end solution where you can categorize your papers in different folders and then cite them on the go. Logically automatically generates the metadata of all your papers, creates the references section, and provides you with 10,000 plus citation styles to choose from. Now coming to PaperPal. Not only does it offer the host of features that we discussed earlier, but it also offers two unique features, which is plagiarism check and journal submission check. Once you've written your paper, you can use PaperPal's plagiarism check feature to check for similarity and then use its help to make your paper plagiarism free. Once your paper is ready, you can use its journal submission check feature and incorporate the recommendations to make your paper ready for submission. So everyone, even though this video became slightly longer than I expected, I hope you've gotten a good understanding of how to incorporate these top 10 AI tools at every step of your research journey and publish your research paper in no time.
Okay, so that was a lot, I know. So let's jump in and look at some of my favorites. Where is my... Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Okay, so we are going to start with one of my favorites, is Julius. I love Julius, maybe a little too much, according to some people in my life.
I was just gonna say, isn't Julius your boyfriend?
I know, right? Like, might be. So just saying. All right. So Julius is amazing. And one of the things I really like about Julius is it actually gives a lot of support. So they have webinars all the time. I go to their webinars and things like that. You can try Julius out for free, but I just want to log in and I'm going to show you how I've used Julius in the recent past. So I've been doing a 3-year content analysis of all the counseling journal articles from counseling. So all of the journals from counseling. And we looked at all the articles that had anything to do with prejudice, bias, discrimination, or racism. That was a really big undertaking. We had over 2,400 articles that we started with, and then we've whittled it down using a priori codes and things like that to get it down. Now, there's a couple of ways that we've used AI in this project. This is part of NARTIC, which is anti-racism teaching Consortium for Counselor Education. One of the ways that we used AI is we actually used one of the AI sources, Google Notebook LM, to look at our notes that we had. So we had each of the coders from the committee. We have a team of 13 people on this research team. And so each of the team members had coded a research article looking at the title, the abstract, the research question, the hypothesis if it existed, and the purpose statement, and tried to identify how those 4 themes, racism, discrimination, bias, and prejudice, were showing up in the article. And then those were called a priori codes. And then we also used emerging codes. And the emerging codes, initially, the coders were recommending emerging codes. We ended up with over 100 emerging codes that were recommended. But you can imagine if Megan read an article and she made recommendations, and then Erica made recommendations, and then Norman made recommendations, there was a lot of emerging codes that might have applied to different articles, but that person didn't think of those codes. So we needed to figure out a way to make sense of the emerging codes. So we ran the Excel spreadsheet results from the coding through Google Notebook, and it actually helped us identify 15 themes that all of those emerging codes fit into. And because it lists the sources of where it was getting, what rows it was pulling it from, we were able to go back and do a manual check and see if we agreed with those themes of the emerging codes. And then we were able to recode the articles using 15 emerging themes instead of 100 plus emerging themes, right? So it really simplified our work. And for us to do that manually, what I would have done in the past is literally I would have printed out the Excel spreadsheet. I would have cut the codes out. I would have spread them all over my floor, and I would have manually sorted them. That would have taken me hours to do. Google Notebook did it in less than a second. Right? Now, we still had to go through the process of manually checking it and making sure that we agreed with it as a team. That took about 3 hours. So it saved us tons and tons of time. The other thing we did is we brought in our results once we had them into Julius. And this is what Julius was able to do for us. So I brought in the NARTIC data analysis. Here is our results, and I just asked it to please analyze the data and provide a robust description of the data set that is striving to answer the following research questions. How have the themes of anti-racism scholarship evolved over the last 3 decades of counseling scholarship in these national counseling journals since the Sue et al.? What are the trends in language? What are the frequencies of articles in which methodological categories appear? And what are the trends in the frequencies of themes for the different methodological categories, right? So I upload the spreadsheet from where we've tracked and we've coded each one of the articles. And then this is called a glass box AI. And one of the reasons I like it, and Brian could probably speak better to this than I could, but with the glass box, it's basically showing me the code it's using to do the analysis. I can actually copy this code and take it into a lab, a Python lab, and I can manipulate the code. I can do other things with the code. I can verify the code. I can check the code. It's very cool if you're at that level, right? It also gives me these tables where it converts my data into tables that it can use, which are often cleaner than the ones that I have for it, right? It will do all sorts of things here. And then it's calculating the visuals here. As you can see, it's going through the data. It created all these tables. I love this one. It created an article chart, so it showed me the frequency of articles. A little bit later on in Julius, I asked it to overlay this chart with societal events that were happening at the same time. And it was able to determine what correlations there were with the spike in articles, say with George Floyd, with the election of President Trump, the election of President Obama. It was amazing. Norman, jump in.
Yeah, I just wonder because there's typically a delay between when the research is done and when
Yes.
the article is published. How did you go
It
about
actually
events?
calculated that. It calculated and it said, okay, here's the societal event, and within 3 years of that event, you saw this spike. It was really cool. So,
Okay, thanks.
yeah. And so you can see here's the article methodology. Here it tells you which journals from the ACA it's produced, it like mind blowing. I can bring this results out. It gives me the key takeaways from the data for this first question. Here it gave me a thematic overview. We used this one in our article, actually, the A priority theme counts. So you can see that addressing racism, addressing bias, addressing prejudice, all of it's mapped out. Gives different descriptions. There's one of the other ones I wanted to show you guys. There's a heat map. This is my keyword trends because that was one of my research questions, right? What are the keywords? Where are they? What are the keywords? I can also cross-reference it with the journals, so I can show which keywords were in what journals. It gave me a timeline. It gave me, it gave us names for the decades. It used the content from each decade from the articles, and it proposed names for the decades that we used in our articles. Because we changed a couple of them, but for the most part, we really liked it and the way that it described it. Selected keywords. Let's see what else. Oh, it found an error in our data. And once I corrected that, it reran all the data for me based off that. I think there was a couple of lines that were missing some data, and Julius pointed that out and helped me correct it. So here you can see 2020 was an action-oriented surge with justice and anti-racism each sit at 17%. Like, it explained all this. We ended up with originally 36 pages of results that we had to bring down to reach the article cutoff. So this was just amazing to me. Like, it talked about implications. And we didn't take the human part out of this. We used this and we evaluated as human researchers. We decided what we agreed with, what we didn't agree with. We continued to ask questions to Julius of the data. We got into deeper elements of it. One of the things that's really cool, let's go down here. Yeah, lots of it. So I can add a cell here and I could say, after reviewing and discussing the data, what are the top 5 recommendations you have for counselor researchers interested in this topic? And then I hit run. Oh, you just go down. There it goes. Did it do it? Oh, there it is. It's working. So it's going through and it's giving us recommendations. This would be recommendations for future research, implications for our research. We would then integrate the research that supports this. You see the power? It's amazing. Julius, yeah, he's definitely my boyfriend. Absolutely. Now, I will say this. I have caught Julius in a mistake. I have found that it has errors. So I think one of the things that's really important, Tyler and I were just talking about this, is that you have to understand the analyses that you're using enough that you can find that you would recognize a mistake. There was something, I'm sorry, I can't remember. I ran this a few weeks ago that came up and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like that, like, I don't understand this. And so I asked Julius, I said, this doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand this. And Julius said, let me look at it again and reread ran the analysis and said, you're absolutely right. And here's where the problem is. And that's when we were able to clean up the data set some more. And I didn't even have to clean up the data set. I could just say, okay, this is a problem. Please remove any of the, participant or any of the articles that this is impacted. And I think, I remember what it was. There were still a couple of rows of data that didn't have any of the a priori codes checked, and an article couldn't be in the final study if it didn't have at least one of the a priori codes in it. And Julius, me noticing it in the review and then me bringing it up to Julius figured out what the issue was and was able to remove those from the data set without me ever touching the Excel file again. But I can still see everything that Julius is doing, both in code and in content, because it gives me the tables, it gives me the charts. I can take those tables and put them back in JASP, and I can rerun the data analysis in JASP and confirm that I'm getting the same information. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's Julius. But just like anything else, I wouldn't just trust it alone to do the work, right? I need to be collaborating with Julius to do the work, and I need to be providing oversight and peer review. Okay, my other favorite is SciSpace. Have any of you used SciSpace? I love SciSpace. It's one of my favorites. So I love SciSpace, especially for literature reviews. Using SciSpace, typically a book chapter would take me several weeks to write, right? Like really good, probably easily over 100 hours to write a book chapter. And I wish I was exaggerating, but that's really how it was to do a really comprehensive lit review. I did a book chapter in less than 10 hours using SciSpace. Less than 10 hours. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example. Here's one I ran for actually for the literature review I did to create Equity AI. This was part of where I did this. This is not the only thing I used for my lit review, but this is part of what I used. So I can't remember what my actual question was. It was something like, what are ethical framework questions, or what are things we should consider when we're doing ethical decision making with AI, right? And so it gives me these tools, and it pulled up all of these resources. I can pull up more if I want, but it gives me the top 10. I can give filters for it, like only give me sources that are from peer reviewed, only give me things that have PDFs, only give me things that are from the last 5 years. I can give filters for it. And then I can click on the source and I can create a podcast. It'll pull up the source in a lot of cases where I have the source right here. I can ask questions. What are the key takeaways? I feel like key takeaways is the big theme tonight. Key takeaways from these recommend. I can't type while I'm being watched. There we go. And then it's going to scan that resource. And I like that it's thinking about it, it's checking it out, but it's going to have a conversation with this, right? And it's going to give me, this is a very long document, it's going to give me the responses. It's going to tell me what those key themes are. I can also create a podcast of it if I'm an auditory learner, and they will talk about the document. So here's the key takeaways from the UNESCO recommendations for ethical artificial intelligence. And just by scanning this, it is dead accurate. Yes. And then it gives me some other questions to think about. It gives me the 23 sources that this is based off of. I can save it to my notebook. I can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down if I don't like it, right? I can do all of that. I can change the language of it if I want to. If I'm English as a second language, I can change it into my native language. The other thing that I like about SciSpace, and this is something that originally Elicit had that others didn't, but SciSpace now has, is I can choose one of these pre-existing columns about the article. So I could say, okay, what are the methods used, which may not apply to a lot of these because some of these are ethical standards. I can also click on limitations. And what it's going to do is it's going to review those, and it's going to give me a summary of those items, as you can see here. So I'm having a hard time getting back. There we go. So methods used. So it's breaking down the methods. I can click right here and it's going to take me to the actual source and it's going to tell me where it is in that PDF. Okay, so it'll actually take me to where it got the information from the source. I can also create a new column. So Stacy Andrews and Jill and Cherie and I are working on a meta-analysis right now, and we're using SciSpace to identify the effect sizes for us for all of the articles that we're reviewing. And it pulls out the effect size information that we need. Like we can tell it exactly what we need for the meta-analysis, and it will pull that exact data and give us a way to link back to the data in the article so that we can verify it's valid and true. Very cool. Norman?
Yes, I wonder, is there a limitation to the number of articles that you can pull in for the comparison? And
It
what level
depends.
of subscription do you use for your
I have
level of work?
Yeah, I have a pro and I haven't found the limit yet.
So premium I see, and
Yeah,
there's advanced.
Yeah,
So
mine's
premium.
premium. And I can do
Bec-
50 columns across. I used to do this manually for lit reviews. Like I had an Excel spreadsheet. I think Rachel probably might remember that I had an Excel spreadsheet where I would track all this information on my articles. Now it's right here. I do it through SciSpace. It's amazing. And I can have conversations with multiple articles too. So I can go back out here and I can review the literature. I can analyze data. I can find grants for the work that I'm doing, which is a really cool tool, right? I can do all sorts of things with this. And these are some of the resources that it searches and uses. But yeah, I mean, it's like every time I come into SciSpace, it can do something else. It's amazing to me. Okay. So I can create posters and charts and everything. Yes, grants, exactly. Grants.
Perhaps not to jump ahead or so, but how do you see SciSpace in connection compared to Illicit?
Oh, I gave up Illicit for SciSpace. I left him. I left Illicit. Illicit's
So pretty
gone.
much SciSpace can do everything that Illicit can do, but more?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay, nice.
So I did leave Illicit for SciSpace. Totally. My next favorite AI that I wanted to share with you guys in the last few minutes is Boodlebox. Has anybody heard of Boodlebox? Boodlebox is awesome. I love Boodlebox because it's environmentally sound. Boodlebox uses all the other AI, so you can actually pay for Boodlebox and get a lot more for your money, which is another benefit as a student. Some universities, hint, hint, Dr. Park, have purchased Boodlebox for their faculty and students, and it is way more bang for the buck than just ChatGPT. Okay, so Boodlebox is awesome. I love it. I love it. Yes, AT believes in Boodlebox too. And so what I really like about Boodlebox is I can choose which AI I want to use. So you can see they have ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Inflection, Llama, Amazon, Mistral, Web, all of these guys, right? I can also create Boodlebots. So there are Boodlebots that other people have created, which are like little agents that will do certain tasks for you. You can also create your own bots to do tasks that you might have to do on a regular basis, right? Like one of the things that I really don't like doing is creating my supervision billing. I now have a bot that does my supervision billing, and it pulls the information from my calendar and it creates the bills. I don't have to do it anymore. It's heaven. It's amazing. Okay. So Boodlebots, I highly recommend them. All right, so these are the popular ones. Here's some AI models. You can also discover other things and create custom bots. But I like it too because I can search something in ChatGPT in a deep dive, and then I can search it in Claude. I can search it in another form, Gemini, for example, and I can compare the results. Right. And I'm not having to go back and forth, right? So I don't pay for Claude. I don't pay for, I do it all here in my Boodlebot. That's what I do and it's the same price for one of those, I'm paying to get all of these. And they're constantly adding new systems, but the way they do their searches is way more environmentally sound. And also, whatever you put in here is not fed back into a model. It's a closed model, so you don't have to worry about the same safety. You can upload an article and not worry about it being shared and authorship being violated, right? So this is another tool that I like. Boodlebot does have more stringent ethical guidelines than some of the standalone AI, so it will refuse to do work that it doesn't believe in. So I do like to make that kind of known. All right, so these are Dr. LA's 3 favorite AIs that I like to use on a regular basis. Norman?
Do you have any thoughts on Perplexity, which is currently
I
my
haven't
favorite?
used Perplexity. I personally haven't used Perplexity. I also haven't used Consensus, which is another one that a lot of people like, Consensus. I tried using Jenny, but it like made my brain hurt to see all those little maps. So some people that can work for them. I think that part of this is exploring a lot of the free trials and seeing what works best for you, and also thinking about what are you using the AI for. And Andy Stapleton talks about don't buy a year-long subscription to an AI, buy it by the month, so that when you're, especially when you're in, say, dissertation, that you get, okay, I need the lit review AIs right now, so I'm only going to purchase those for this month, and then you're going to purchase these, right? So that you're not investing hundreds and hundreds of dollars in an AI, but you're investing in the ones you need when you need them. I think Boodlebox is a really good answer to that because it gives you a lot of the different tools without having to pay for everything, personally. Norman, I see 1,000 questions on your face.
Well, no, it's very easy. I think the research mode of Perplexity has, in terms of accuracy and depth, beat everything else I know, and they also offer different models. So
yeah, and so that
because
might work
they-
really well. Yeah. I
But-
find that SciSpace, I have not found anything hallucinated in SciSpace. I will say sometimes I do have to check the journal quality for SciSpace, but otherwise I'm happy with it. And Claude, I think, has improved significantly in the quality of articles. But if I would love to check out Perplexity, I'm just a little maxed out right now with all the AIs I'm already paying for. So yeah. Questions, thoughts? Yes, information overload to be sure.
How did you cite your use of Julius in the article?
So we said Julius, the version that it was in the year.
And you mentioned that in the introduction or
In the
at the
data
end,
analysis, it's in the data analysis that Julius was used for the data analysis version, blah, 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 year this, and then we reference it as well in the references.
And do you have an example, like just a small example paper, how to cite potentially the use of SciSpace and
APA actually has that on the APA style page.
Okay.
Yes. APA style. So my goal is after this presentation, starting in October, is I'm going to hit each, like every couple of weeks, is to highlight one AI system and how it might be used ethically and appropriately in graduate school and doctoral work. So if you have specific AIs that you want to see and learn more about, let me know. But also we have at the end of the presentation, there should be 2 QR codes. You have the reference list and the tools list. The tools list has some of my favorite tutorials that you can go to and look at as well. Okay. Questions, thoughts?
This was wonderful. Thank you so much. I think you blew a lot of minds, maybe not Brian's, because he's been doing this forever and ever, amen. But for the rest of us, we are just really grateful because we're not following this on the everyday, and anything that makes data analysis easier, y'all, Fantastic.
Exactly. And I'd like to cover some of the qualitative ways you can use it as well. I've used it for both. So more is coming after I get back from Bali next week.
Do you need somebody to carry like your luggage, your laptop? You know, I got
I
a
am just
passport.
super
I
indebted
camp
to-
out on the beach. I'm real
No,
simple.
But
Do
I
my
do have to
homework.
call out Dr. Haddad, Dr. Bonfini, soon to be Dr. Orr. They're all a bunch of other people on this call are helping cover me while I'm gone. And I'm just forever thankful for you guys covering me.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody needs a vacation every now and then.
Every
you
now and
deserve
then.
one.
That's right. Okay, guys. Well, have a wonderful night. I'll hang on if people have other last minute questions, but it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, everybody.